Now, those of you who've been around the channel for a while might have remembered that over the winter we did quite a bit of work in this area over here. This used to be one big long potato bed. In fact, that bed over there next to it, we used to have two big long potato beds. And that was far too many potatoes, because on top of that, we had all the potato buckets that used to live up next to the polytunnel. So there was millions of potatoes, and we don't use that many potatoes. So over the winter, did something about it. We've changed things around a little bit. Last year, we converted that bed over there. We've got the asparagus in there. You can see all the fronds sort of firing up there. We'll not do anything with them this year. Next year, something will probably get picked from there, but we just need to let them grow this year and let them be. But over here, I've got a bit of a plan to make something look really quite nice and quite special. We picked up two brand new to me, palette colours, made some raised beds, got some new compost in there, got some stuff on the go. Lovely jubbly, and they've been covered up ever since. And what I'm going to put in here is squash. And you might think, it's a bit of a squash for squash in there. There's not a lot of room in two palette colours. And you'd be absolutely right. There isn't enough room in there for squash plants, because they like to trail, they like to grow, they like to go nice and big, and they are exceptionally hungry plants. But I've switched to growing squashes because we found out last year when I grew some down there in the big metal bed that we use more squash than potatoes, because we like to make soup. I say we, my wife likes to make soup. She's got this great soup maker, and we made some beautiful soup with squash last year. So we're going squash. We've got rid of potatoes from here, just potatoes and buckets, and we're going squash. So how am I going to squash the squash into the bed? We are going up. So I've got 3 arches. I think three will just be about the right amount. We'll get 1, 2, 3 across here. The idea is squash in here, squash in here. We'll grow them up over the arches, and I'm hoping to maybe make a bit of a feature out of it. You'll have seen the obelisks that we've done, that we've got the sweet peas growing up. Now, it did have an arch previously, and the problem was it only lasted 1 season because it rotted through on some of the joints where sort of, you know, they're just cheap. They're about 10 quid each, these arches. It's not the most expensive ones in the world. I probably should have taken it down and put it away over winter, but I didn't, and it rotted through, and now it's no good. So we've got 3 new ones, and I've got a little bit of a solution, similar again to the obelisks, for getting them a little bit more weatherproof than the other one was in the past. So without further ado, let me get on. Let me show you how we're putting these arches together. How they go. They're dead simple. It does need a little bit of tidying up in this area. There's a few weeds and things knocking about, but that's no different on the other part of the allotment at this time of year, is it? But let's get this out. Like I say, came from Amazon. This is all it is. I guess you'd class it as being flat packed. I'm not going to read the instructions because I've already done 2, so I know how to put them together. All of the pieces are labelled with letters A through to F, F being the screws, A and B. And because I've done it a few times now, I know which way around it goes. So it's honestly, it couldn't be simpler. So we'll pick bag A. The only thing you need to remember for building these is that A and B, the bits that go into the ground, are separate. Pretty much all the other bits that go vertically C are all the same. But I'm just going to show you this first bit, just how I sort of get it started, get things on the go, and honestly all the rest of it is identical. Even the curved bits that go over the top, the way it puts together, the way it sort of clips together is exactly the same for all the bits. Now I'm just looking for these bits E, and we'll get one of them, and then we'll get a couple of screws. And like most DIY enthusiasts, when I was doing this previously, I would hold the screws in my mouth, but I'm not going to do that now because that wouldn't be very good for talking on the camera. So, dead simple. There's sort of a beveled bit at the end there, a bit smaller than the other bit. It's got a hole in it. There's a wide bit at this end, got a hole in it. That goes over the top of that. Line them up. Screw goes through the middle like that. Then the bar that goes across just goes on there, and it screws on there. Easy as that. So I'm sure you can already see, just with that one bit of the arch going together, how this is going to sort of all sort of come together in the end. And it's exactly the same for the other side. That goes through. The only thing I'm going to do, and the only tool I'm using here to put this together, is a screwdriver. And I've got this little electric screwdriver that a decorator once left in my house that is now mine, and I'm going to tighten it up, and I will go around at the end and tighten up all the screws and make sure they're done. And it's as simple as that. So all I'm going to do is stack them up. I'm going to go across the top in the curve, back down the other side, and that is the arch built. One thing I wanted to show you is this. This is Hammerite direct to rust metal paint, and it's exactly the same stuff I used on the obelisks. Where I'm using it is over the joints, so anywhere where these sort of 3 bits here joined together, has all been sprayed over with the Hammerite, including the bit, the leg. So all the bottom bit of the leg up to the first set of screws is being Hammerited as well. And the legs themselves at the bottom, I've put some polytunnel repair tape all the way around it, just so there's that plastic coating over it. For the bit that's going to go in the ground, it's going to be directly in the soil and wet pretty much all the time. Now, I would just normally use some black plastic. I'd cut up a black bin bag, use that, wrap around a bit of tape. I didn't have any today, so I'm only using polytunnel repair tape because it's what I had to hand. A big old roll of it, and it's done just the job. It is right as rain. So we've got our first one here. Don't be worried if it looks a bit off than it is. This bed isn't perfectly straight. This bed is bigger than this bed, so it will never be perfectly straight and even. But once we've got some squash in here, once it's planted up, once we've got some leaves and things coming over the top, hey, you won't even notice they're there. You'll just see a big old, plethora of squash plants grow. Well, hopefully all the way around here, and I'm hoping it's going to look absolutely wonderful. But anyway, what we need to do now, let's try and squeeze the other two in. And just looking at this one just needs to come this way a little bit. I'm not pushing them all the way in just yet, again as well, just because they might need shuffling about, nudging about, just to make all three of them fit in the two beds. But we'll get there. So let's see about getting the second arch in, and let me pick the right one now. How am I going to do this? They're a bit cumbersome, shall we say, to move around, so you'll have to excuse me for a moment shuffling them in. And can I fit that one in there? That's just about perfect on that side, and we'll just get them roughly lined up to begin with, and let's see if I can get that one there as well. What I'll probably end up doing, I think, is that one's just gone much deeper, is once they're in and once I'm happy with their sort of positioning, I'll probably join them together. I'll use some cable ties and join them together so the three arches are all sort of joined together, nice and snug, nice sort of tight fit. And what I want to do, I just want to move this edge down just a little bit, this down, just to get it at about the same height, just so I can see what I'm doing here. But I'm actually, I've been thinking about doing this for ages. I've had the arches for ages, but because it's a squash that weren't going to go to summer, everything else has taken priority over it, and I've been wanting to do this job for ages, and I'm so pleased to be doing it. I'm so happy to be getting on with it. Now I can see this last arch is just going to be a bit of a tight squeeze, I think, in terms of getting the three in. So what they might do is the legs will just overlap a little bit, which again I'm fine with. It'll be fine. We'll get them in at the same height. They're looking all right. We'll just go and fix this side as well. I've got some, honestly, wait till you see them in a minute there. I've got some lovely looking squash plants to go in. I think, if anything, they're probably going to be a little bit pot bound. I think when I come to take them out, let me just adjust that a little bit. Yeah, so they're just not quite sitting perfectly in alignment with each other, but I think we can get the cable ties. We'll get them cable tied up. They're nice and firm in the ground, and we'll get some plants out. So as I mentioned before, the squash plants that we've grown this year are really quite nice. They're looking pretty good. I suspect they might be a little bit root bound in the pots, but we've got two different types. One's a winter squash, one's a summer squash. We've got sunburst squash and we've got honey bear squash. And just looking at how many have I got? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We've got 8 squash and 3 arches. I think we'll manage that. Hopefully that's about the right number. Like I say, first time doing it, I'm just sort of guessing at what I need to do. And I'm thinking, because the arches are probably a little bit wider than I imagined they were, what I might do is plant the squash on the inside, train them up under the first thing, and then up the outside of the arch. So similar, I did that with some of the obelisks and some of the peas and the beans and that. Plant them on the inside, loop them out over the first sort of bar there, and then bring them up over the top. In theory, that's how it should work. We'll see whether it works like that in practice, but I guess there's nothing else to do. I'm just trying to think how I'm going to do it, whether I mix and match either side, the two different types of squash, or whether I put one on one side and one on the other. One's a winter squash, one's a summer squash, so one lot will die, one won't. So I might do a bit of mixing and matching, just so we've got some growth on both sides throughout the season. But let's get them planted out. Lovely little squash plants. They're looking fab. This one here is one of the honey bear ones. It is, it's not too bad, if you can see that there. The roots aren't too bad. I think I've just about caught them at the right time. Now, if I'm going to do 4 on either side, I'm going to have to bring 2 up through one arch. So let's dig a hole. It's going to be pretty straightforward. Hole, fish blood and bone, mix it in, squash goes in, compost on the top, get it pressed in nice and tight. Like I say, this is going to come out here. The idea is bring it out here, up over the top here and along the outside. It's just because there's more room here on the inside of the arch for planting. And let's not forget to pop the label there so I know which one's which. And if that one's a honey bear squash, let's see if we can find a sunburst. Yes, the sunburst, and the sunbursts are quite a little bit bigger than the honey bears, and you can see there the roots. Yeah, the roots are much more established on that one. So I'm not going to tell you what I'm going to do. Let's put the honey burst in the middle, or just to the right of the middle. We'll squeeze another honey bear in there. Sunburst. Yeah, that's how we're going to do it. So let me, just to give everything a room, because these plants, honestly, the size of them now, the squash plants will get so big so quick, and they'll be filling up these beds before I know it. So we'll put that in there, and again squash it down. And I'll have to keep on top of these. I was saying before, they're very hungry. They are very hungry plants. They're very thirsty plants. Need to keep on top of them with the feeding and the watering all the way throughout the season, which I will endeavour to do so. But let me get all the rest of this planted up, and I'm putting these labels there. They'll probably disappear with squash leaves before I know it. But let's get this planted up, and we'll come back and we'll see how this is all looking at the end when we're all done. So there we have it, another job done. I don't know if you can quite see it behind me in the background there. We'll go up, we'll have a closer look, and I'll go right down the bottom end of the plot so you can see the arches in their full glory. But let's have a little look up here. So we've got the 4 squashes on this one. We've got the 4 squashes on that one. Like I say, planted inside the arch on both sides. We'll trail them under the first bar and then up over the outside. And hopefully it'll look smashing. Now down the middle here, it just needs a little bit of tidying up. We've just got some, where I've had the cardboard down where the new beds have gone in and whatnot. We just get some nice fresh wood chips, put them on the top there, and that'll sort it out. No bother whatsoever. But let's have a little walk down this end of the plot, and if I move around, hopefully behind me you can see the arches there in their full glory. I'm chuffed a bit to it. It's taken a little bit of time. Took a little bit of time to put the arches together and whatnot, but I'm really, really glad it's done. I'm really pleased with the result. I think it looks good. It probably took me more time to do the spray paint, to do the polytunnel tape to protect the arches from the weather than it did doing everything else. Anyway, that's me done for today. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye for now, folks.